Hello again, this is Dr. Blackman, and we are going to go over the eye model today that you're responsible for in Anatomy and Physiology lab. The first thing that we're going to talk about are these muscles that move the eye up, down, left, right. These muscles are called the extrinsic eye muscles or the extraocular eye muscles. This large muscle on top is called the superior rectus muscle. This muscle on bottom here is called the inferior rectus muscle. Because we know that this muscle, which you're not responsible for, is superior oblique muscle, because we know that it starts nasally where the nose is and then heads laterally before inserting. That tells us that this is the left eye. And if we know that this is the left eye, we know that this is the lateral side towards the ear, and this is the medial side towards the nose. So this would be the lateral rectus muscle. This would be the medial rectus muscle. Okay. The structures of the eye that you need to know: the eye itself, this transparent window here to the eye is called the cornea. As you can see, it's missing its top half so that we can see the structures underneath it better. This white structure here, the white of the eye, is called the sclera. This cavity in front here, everything in front of the lens, this would be the anterior cavity. We're going to talk about the posterior cavity in just a minute. But this anterior cavity is filled with a fluid that's very watery. It's called the aqueous humor. If we take the top part of the eye off, we can now see this structure, which is actually a muscle. That would be called the iris. So if you have blue eyes, for example, your iris would be blue. If you have brown eyes, your iris would be brown. The structure that's in the middle of the iris that allows light to go through, that would be called the pupil. This brown, darkly pigmented structure that's below the sclera would be called the choroid or the choroid coat. If we look at the posterior aspect of the eye, we can see this structure protruding from the back. That would be the optic nerve or cranial nerve 2. If we take this part off, here we have the lens of the eye, and here we have the posterior cavity, which is filled with a very jelly-like material that we call the vitreous humor, as opposed to the aqueous humor. If we look at some of the structures in the innermost portions of the eye, if we put the lens back in its place here, this structure here in red would be called the ciliary body. As you can see, it connects to the lens by these white fibers or ligaments called the suspensory ligaments. And the ciliary body causes these suspensory ligaments to either contract or relax to change the shape of your lens. So we're going to take that lens out. This tan innermost portion of your eye here, this sort of serves like the film of a camera. That would be called your retina. And your retina has two different sensory receptors, each of which is a photoreceptor because it responds to light. Those are called rods and cones. Now, a rod helps you see in dimly lit situations, so you see mainly black, white, shades of gray. The cone photoreceptors help you see in more lighted conditions and help you see in color. This again is the optic nerve, where the optic nerve meets the retina here. That would be called the optic disc. And then I'm going to flip it over so you hopefully you can see that number better. The number 13 there, and you may be able to see that that's a slightly different color, almost a pink color, very small. That would be called the fovea centralis. And that fovea centralis is where you have your very, very sharp, crisp 20/20 vision. And those are all of the parts of the eye that you're responsible for anatomy and physiology.